If a cocktail's on your Thanksgiving menu, Califasane offers this tribute to the martini. Cheers.
The martini makes very good sense for Thanksgiving. It will whet your appetite for the meal to come.
Robert Simonson wrote a book about the martini, the cocktail everyone seems to have an opinion about.
Nowadays, what makes a martini a martini?
It's funny, it's strict and loose at the same time.
Ingredients, proportions, garnishes, it's all subject to debate.
I'm a purist. I would think it needs to be gin and vermouth. But I'm willing to bend and say, okay, vodka and vermouth as well. If there's no vermouth in there, I don't know how you can call it a cocktail.
Simonson says the martini was probably named after a vermouth company. It was invented in America in the 1870s or 80s when bartenders mixed gin with vermouth, a fortified wine made with herbs and spices.
It's a very big player in cocktail history.
In the early 20th century, the very dry martini became very popular. Ice-cold gin or vodka garnished with a lemon twist or an olive or an onion, but only a little vermouth, or maybe not even a little.
Why is it that so many people would want gin or vodka without vermouth?
Because for years and years and years, it was stored improperly. It should be in the fridge.
Samantha Kasuga is the head bartender at Temple Bar in New York City.
So in the story of bad martinis, people thought vermouth was the villain, turns out to be the victim.
Correct. This whole time.
Kasuga's classic martini is 2 parts gin, 1 part vermouth.
Cheers.
Cheers.
With a twist of lemon.
That's great.
I'm delighted to be here.
She suggests that you probably shouldn't order it the way James Bond does.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
When you're making a martini, are you always stirring?
I personally am.
Is part of the reason for the popularity of shaking a martini that it puts on a little show behind the bar?
I mean, definitely. People love a good shake.
Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
People also love to have a martini made just the way they want it.
I think martini drinkers tend to be specific. Are martini drinkers obnoxious?
Okay. I would say if
This is already sounding very diplomatic.
No, there's a luxury behind that. And to have your own preferences not only listened to and then executed is like, that's the luxury itself.
Writer Robert Simonson says that a martini can also add a little luxury to your Thanksgiving.
There are very few American inventions more American than the martini. So it's an American holiday, American drink.
A grown-up American drink. Cheers.
Cheers.
From an early age, we're taught the benefits of hard work. What you don't hear much about is the real value of doing nothing. With Susan Spencer, let's all take it easy.
For most of her working life, Celeste Headley never made any time for any time off.
I used to say I can outwork anybody. That used to be like my calling card.
A single mother, at one point she was balancing childcare with 7 different jobs.
I am a professional opera singer, so I sang for the Michigan Opera Theater. I also did a lot of writing jobs. I wrote for the Detroit News. I was filing freelance pieces for National Public Radio.
But in 2017, at age 47, she hit a wall.
I was irritable all the time. I was tired all the time. I mean, I started getting sick, and I'm a very healthy person. I don't generally get sick, so obviously I was overworked. And that was a problem that had to be solved.
First step, she quit her full-time job. Second, equally drastic move, she took a 2-week cross-country train ride, much of it without Wi-Fi, just to see what would happen.
For the first 3 or 4 days, it was panic. You know when you leave your house and you realize you don't have your cell phone on you, and you're like, but eventually it just started to feel okay.
By the time she got home, she'd had an epiphany.
Idleness, leisure time, is necessary for our own health and well-being.
The title of Headley's recent book says it all, but she argues social pressures make doing nothing hard to do. After all, we might be accused of the dreaded sin of laziness.
If somebody's lazy, right, they're not earning their place in society. They're a bum.
So you think laziness has become a bad word?
Yeah, absolutely.
How did laziness get such a bum rap?
Laziness gets a bum rap from religion, it gets a bum rap from capitalism, it gets a bum rap because we are trying to be productive in our lives.
And productivity is the real priority in America, says Professor Lonnie Golden, who teaches economics at Penn State Abington.
The big payoffs in the U.S. are making yourself available for promotion or building your own business from scratch. So there's many good rewards from that.
But there's no reward for being lazy.
There's no reward for being lazy, I think it's fair to say. When you're at your high school reunion, you don't want to be saying, I've been doing nothing.
According to a recent survey, Americans value hard work over just about everything else, including self-fulfillment, marriage, patriotism, religion, and tolerance for others. Even retirees have a hard time doing nothing.
It gets to be what's called the conspicuous busyness, like, hey, look how busy I am and look how much time I'm spending. Maybe it's volunteering, but it should be okay to say I'm retired. And as a result, I can be lazy when I feel like being lazy.
But it's not.
Because we're in this cult.
This anti-lazy cult.
Yeah, we have all been basically brainwashed to believe that we have to work hard or we're not of value.
Which may explain why employers seem to love employees who say they can multitask. Really, what could be less lazy?
We hear this all the time. Businesses ask candidates, are you good at multitasking? And they want to hear yes. But what they should want to hear is no. People are motivated, people want to get ahead, it's understandable.
Professor Earl K. Miller, a neuroscientist at MIT's Picower Institute for Learning and Memory, has sobering news for a culture obsessed with juggling jobs.
Our brains are very one track. We can hold only one or two thoughts in mind at a time. That is it. We're very single-minded.
You mean it is physically impossible to multitask?
I mean, it is physically impossible to multitask.
Our poor brains, when struggling to multitask, instead simply slow down and make mistakes. A far better plan, says Professor Miller, is to try doing no tasks at all.
You know, a lot of times some of your best thoughts come to you when your conscious mind is out of the way, when you allow these unconscious thoughts to bubble up, right? And sometimes it's good to be lazy, not lazy, but to tune out a bit and let these thoughts bubble up.
That advice is a way of life at the 93-year-old Institute for Advanced Study, an academic research center in Princeton, New Jersey, where remarkably, doing nothing does not have a bad name, says director David Nuremberg.
What's a typical day like?
There isn't a typical day. You can do whatever you want. The day is yours.
When not gathering for tea each day, scholars may take a walk in the woods, sit by the pond, or even nap.
We all need space for non-intentional activity, non-intentional thought, contemplation. That's why weekends exist. I think that's why so many of our faith traditions have introduced days of rest.
But we think of that as being lazy.
I think it's a crucial part of being human.
Not to imply that anyone's slacking off. The Institute has been an intellectual home to Albert Einstein, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and 35 Nobel laureates.
Some of the most productive and renowned people in history worked maybe 4 hours a day. Charles Dickens, Charles Darwin, Henri Poincaré. I mean, these are people who had a focused time of 4 hours, and the rest of the time, what were they doing? They were dining, they were sitting in the garden, they were hanging out with friends.
They were being lazy.
Yeah, to our 21st century eyes, yeah, they were being lazy. To them, they were living their life. My friends definitely see me more.
And Celeste Headley wants all of us to start living our lives too.
Yeah, of course you take vacation.
So if you had one message about laziness, what would it be?
The most successful animals on the planet are the laziest. Think about how long lions lie around on the savannah. And when they need food, there's a burst of energy and activity, and they get it, and then they go back to lying around. If you look at the apex predators, some of the most successful species on planet Earth, they spend a good amount of their time doing nothing at all.
Does it seem like our lives are moving along at an ever faster pace? Take just one example, the online world, where algorithms feed us an endless stream of engaging content. But are we really living life faster? And is this change changing us? Pay close attention to correspondent David Pogue.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Hang on 1 second. Oh, let me call you back. I gotta do a TV thing. Does it ever seem like something is going on with our attention spans? I mean, the world's #1 most downloaded app is TikTok, an infinite stream of very short video clips. Newspaper articles are getting shorter, and they tell you how much time you'll need to read them. And the average length of a shot in a movie is now under 5 seconds.
We're always holding another device. Like, if you're watching something, I feel like everyone always has their phone next to them or
That makes me
after.
so sad.
These days, multitasking while you're tasking is the norm among young people. Just ask counselor Lauren Barnett and her daughters Zoe and Sasha.
My roommates would all be like doing work on their computers, watching TV, but also on their phones, texting people.
I have a short attention span.
You hate long classes.
Yeah, I can't sit in long classes. I think I'm
Can't
just...
sit at long meals.
Yeah.
Where are your phones right now?
Over there somewhere.
Is there any cell in your body that's like, as soon as this is over, I'm gonna go right over and...
Every cell.
So my book is called Attention Span, and it's basically...
I'm sorry, can you hang on 1 second? Hello? Just kidding. Gloria Mark is an attention researcher at the University of California, Irvine. Is there any scientific evidence that attention spans are getting shorter?
Yes. So we started studying attention span length over 20 years ago. We would shadow people with a stopwatch, and every time they shifted attention, we'd click stop. In 2003, we found that attention spans averaged about 2.5 minutes on any screen before people switched. In the last 5-6 years, they're averaging 47 seconds on a screen.
How can you get anything done if you're supposed to write a report and 47 seconds later you're switching to another app?
You do it with great difficulty.
Professor Mark maintains that a shorter attention span has 3 downsides.
The first is that people make more errors when they do attention shifting. Second downside is that it takes longer to do something because we have to reorient to every new task every time we shift. The third downside, maybe this is the worst of all, is that stress increases. When people are working on multiple tasks and they have to shift their attention, their blood pressure rises.
You don't have to be a professor to guess at the cause of our greater distractibility. It's technology, of course. Phones, social media, texting. Sasha Barnett can attest to that.
Do you guys have iPhones?
Yeah.
Go into the screen time settings and tell us how many unlocks in a day.
You can do that?
Oh, pickups. Okay, yesterday I picked it up 236
Oh my
times.
God.
That's a lot.
So, is that it? Have we become the overstimulated zombies foretold in Back to the Future 2?
Okay, I want channels 18, 24, 63, 109, 87, and the Weather Channel.
I don't think our attention spans have changed really at all. There's no data for that.
Cornell psychology professor emeritus James Cutting doesn't think it's time to abandon all hope.
I would point out that TSA baggage scanners work 2-hour shifts, and that's pretty intensive work for 2 hours. And many of us have watched teenagers play their games for many hours at a time. And it strikes me that that kind of attention span is pretty impressive.
But what about that business of movie shots getting shorter? I mean, we've come a long way from the pacing of 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968 to Top Gun: Maverick last year.
Smoke in the air! Smoke in the air! Hang on!
Cutting says that's got nothing to do with our attention spans. We just know the language of movies better than our ancestors did.
We have gotten over the decades a lot faster at picking up visual material. It sort of makes sense that a filmmaker would make the shots shorter. The filmmaker doesn't need to dwell on something like that.
Cutting also points out that even though TikTok videos are very short, movies themselves are getting longer.
There are a lot more movies pushing 3 hours now than there used to be. But of course, we also have long-form television where things can go on for 8 episodes, 12 episodes, or whatever.
One thing's for sure. As Lauren Barnett points out, technology's not going away.
It's their whole world. There's no job where they could be without it. There's no academic environment where they could be without it. Like, there's no social interaction unless they go away to the mountains for 2 months.
I am not an advocate of throwing away technology. What we need to do instead is learn how to live with it.
Gloria Mark has a couple of tips for staying focused. First, when you feel the itch to change tasks, analyze why. If it's just boredom or procrastination, make a deal with yourself that you'll work another 20 minutes and then treat yourself to a reward. Second, picture yourself at the end of the day. What do you want to have accomplished? How do you want to feel?
A concrete visualization of yourself sitting on the couch, watching your favorite show is really good motivation.
I mean, my grandfather died just shy of his 107th birthday.
Wow.
And he told me that his parents would say, "You're going to rot your brain listening to that newfangled radio."
Right.
For me, it was, "You're going to rot your brain watching TV.
Yep.
For you, it's, "You're going to rot your brain on social media." I mean, every generation thinks that technology is ruining the next one. That's why I'm hung up on this notion of, is it worse or is it just different?
Depends on whether they're considering productivity or considering well-being. And I think they're two very different things. I think they'll be just as productive, but their well-being, with all that increased productivity, there's no question that their well-being is negatively impacted. So therein lies the dilemma.
Shoes off. It's the rule in more and more homes. But why? Mo Raga goes in search of answers.
What are we getting on the bottoms of our shoes?
Okay, right now, some dirt, grass, weeds, spores, maybe some manure.
When it comes to the great shoes on, shoes off debate, and you're okay with all of that going into your home,
Mo, my dog, was just rolling in a dead animal. I'm good.
Ask Amy advice columnist Amy Dickinson knows where she stands. What's happening here? Am I removing or?
You're keeping your shoes on.
Okay. Dickinson, who lives in the Finger Lakes region of New York, grew up on a dairy farm.
I got together with some friends from high school last week, and I was asking them shoes on, shoes off, and they were all like, "Oh no, shoes on." And that's when I decided people who live in the country, we wear shoes indoors.
Dickinson, who wrote a column on this very subject back in 2007, sees the debate as an issue of hospitality.
In my experience, every time I have been asked to remove my shoes, of course I've done so, but I always feel like the host is valuing their floors more than they're valuing their guests or other people's comfort.
Hey, hi. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, Mo.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, no.
But for Los Angeles-based writer Jeff Yang, asking guests to remove their shoes and wear slippers,
left shark, right shark,
is precisely about hospitality.
I think what changing into slippers does is it gives you a sense of informality and comfort and intimacy, right?
Yang is something of a convert. Growing up on New York's Staten Island, he didn't always abide by house rules.
I was a little rebellious. I mean, that's the extent of the rebellion, right? Not like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's like, I'm going to wear my shoes in the house, Mom. And that was part of the reason that my parents felt like a semester spent abroad would be a good thing for me, to learn a little how things are supposed to be done.
So at the age of 8, Yang was sent to stay with his aunt Chi Mei in Taiwan, where shoes are not worn in the house.
I just sort of walked on in thinking, okay, I'm going to give her a big hug. But as I was walking in, she basically raised her hand and said, what do you think you're doing? And I stopped, and she said, if you walk into my house with your shoes on, you're walking across my heart.
With those words, Yang's aunt instilled in him a deeper lesson.
When you take off your shoes, you are changing yourself from a stranger to a friend and family member, and as a result are sort of transformed from outsiders to insiders.
For many in the shoes off camp, it's strictly about hygiene. Indiana University biogeochemist Gabriel Filippelli has been tracking what the shoes on people are tracking into their homes, including at least one dangerous contaminant.
I took samples of my dust and brought it into the lab, and it was like, oh my God, it was super high for lead.
And by taking your shoes off, you still might have some lead in the house, but significantly less.
That's exactly right. Okay. And I've now done a post-measurement of my own human experiment. It's reduced by more than half.
Reduced by more than half, okay.
So
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
If you weren't sure where he stands, Filippelli shared his findings in an opinion piece entitled, Wearing Shoes in the House is Gross. Are you surprised at how contentious this is?
I was. I mean, it is a deeply ingrained emotional subject, apparently.
And why do you think it is?
I think it taps into something that we can have an argument about that's not political or religious, that is robust, and it doesn't make someone feel terrible afterwards.
So whether you're shoes on or shoes off, consider this footnote from Jeff Yang.
People who want to keep their shoes on could put on booties over their outer shoes, not a problem. As long as you see the other person, I think there's almost always a way to actually get around these differences.
Sometimes you can't avoid a sleepless night, even in a bedroom as spectacular as this one. We've asked our Susan Spencer to go in search of a perfect night's sleep. And to begin, she says, divide and conquer.
Here's more of your pink.
This New Jersey couple has shared a home for a decade, but they have never shared a bedroom.
Having my own space, that feels comforting to me.
When you were looking for a home, was the bedroom issue a non-negotiable item?
Yes, 2 bedrooms, absolutely necessary.
Freelance writer Rachel Kramer-Bussell and abstract painter Drew Griffiths agree. This is a mess.
It is a mess.
Sleeping apart means sleeping better, but they don't agree on a whole lot else. This is your place, right?
This is my room, for sure.
How would you react if you had to sleep in his room?
I could do it for a night, but I think more than one night I would be like, where's my stuff?
I like a very empty, clean bed.
When I have nothing in the bed, it feels weird to me.
I like cool. If I could figure out how to like pump air conditioning through my pillow at all times, I probably would.
I like to be very warm. Like I wear pajamas, sometimes I wear a sweater over pajamas. I have a weighted blanket and a quilt, and then sometimes I put another blanket over my shoulders.
Everything you said, you just diametrically opposed. Yet they're not alone in sleeping alone. According to a recent survey, 1 in 5 American couples keep separate bedrooms. You know, when people hear separate beds, you know what they think.
Yes.
Oh, that we're not
Intimate.
madly in love with each other?
That's one thing.
Yeah. No,
And
we
they
are.
think, what about sex?
Well, that's what my room's for.
Yes.
I think in our society, there's a stigma around sleeping apart, almost as if, you know, if you don't sleep in the same bed, there must be something wrong with your relationship. But there's no reason why you have to share the same surface while you're unconscious for 7 hours.
Maybe not, but Jade Wu, a Duke University sleep specialist who's written a book on insomnia, says patients are frequently surprised by her advice. How often do you actually recommend to couples that they sleep apart?
About 24% of the patients I have, the number one red flag for me is when a middle-aged or older woman tells me that her husband snores like a freight train.
That must happen every day, many times. Which brings us back to Rachel and Drew, who say snoring is one more reason they sleep apart. But at the end of the day, sleeping apart may be what's kept them together. Can you ever foresee a day when you would walk into your one beautiful bedroom and you had to share?
I mean, not if we have a choice.
I think it would be too jarring for each of us to give up our separate spaces.
They're like sanctuaries.
Definitely.
To tip or not to tip? That is the question. Nancy Giles goes in search of the tipping point.
At Dirt Candy in New York City, Amanda Cohen and her staff spend their day chopping, rolling, and sautéing vegetables. What's the thing with you and vegetables?
I just really like them, and you get to be so creative and have so much fun with them. We're like pioneers in the vegetable world, and it's fun.
She's a pioneer in another way, too. There's a no tipping policy at her restaurant. What would you say is the biggest plus about having a no tip system?
There's quite a few, actually. One is my guests don't have to do math at the end of the night. They can drink as much as they want and not have to worry. My staff is really happy. They all feel like they're making a fair wage.
And a happy staff stays.
You know, right now you hear about this revolving door in restaurants and there's not enough staff. I am overstaffed.
I really respect the restaurants that have been able to stick with this. We just couldn't.
Restaurateur Danny Meyer started a no tipping policy in his restaurants in 2015.
It took a lot of explaining because it's not the typical way that Americans go out to dine.
Mm-hmm.
But in that time, the consumers really got with the program.
Then COVID hit. Restaurants closed. Jobs were lost. When they opened again,
New Yorkers were literally throwing dollar bills at our servers. We said, we don't take tips here. After a week of that, I said to myself, this is insane. How can I say that I'm on the side of our staff and not permit them to benefit from putting themselves on the front line?
Right.
And so we did reinstate tipping.
For now, he says, he has to live with it.
Unfortunately, if you're going to eliminate tipping in your restaurant in this country, and you realize that most other restaurants are not doing that, you put yourself at a decided disadvantage when it comes to people shopping menu prices. If and when this country says we're going to lay down our arms and stop tipping, we'll be at the front of the line.
We've gotten used to tipping in restaurants, but now it seems we're being asked to tip everybody for everything. Do you tip the barista who gives you your coffee? And what about the person that hands you a muffin or a bottle of water at the deli? And then there are gig workers, Uber and Lyft drivers, the people who deliver your food or your groceries or your packages. And how much should we tip? And will the person who provided that service actually get it?
We really do want to do the right thing. We want to tip and tip appropriately, but sometimes we just don't know.
Even for etiquette expert Diane Gottsman, it's confusing.
I walked up to the counter, I bought a mug from a diner. They flipped that little tip app around and it says tip, 20, 25, 30. And then there is a button that says no tip, and that kind of feels uncomfortable. But for that quick exchange that happened in less than 6 seconds, I hit no tip.
As long as we allow one industry to get away with it, more and more and more industries are going to want that boondoggle.
Saru Jayaraman says giving tips instead of wages began in the South after the Civil War.
We in America uniquely mutated tipping from being an extra bonus on top of a wage to becoming a replacement for wages. That became law in 1938 as part of the New Deal, when everybody got the right to a federal minimum wage for the first time, but tipped workers were excluded.
She is the founder of One Fair Wage.
Our fight is to just get everybody a full minimum wage with tips on top. For everybody to be guaranteed a full wage from their employer, like every other worker in every other industry, and let tips be what they were always intended to be.
As for Amanda Cohen, she gets a good night's sleep these days.
We are packed every night.
Would you ever consider going back to the tip system?
Absolutely not. I think this restaurant's on the right side of history.
But enough about music. Time for Luke Burbank to turn up the heat.
Now they're coming for our stoves. You got to be kidding me.
Depending on which news outlets you tend to follow, it would be pretty easy of late to get the mistaken impression that someone might be coming for your gas stove.
So the Chinese government, by proxy, gets to decide how you cook your dinner.
But how exactly did this most recent skirmish in the culture war start? Well, it was almost a month ago when Richard Trumpka Jr. of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission told Bloomberg News everything was on the table when it comes to addressing the potential health risks posed by gas stoves.
Because of the symptoms I was getting when I would be here in the kitchen, I would always have my window open a little bit, always.
Maria Espada was only too happy to have her gas stove replaced. For 44 years, she's lived in the Watson houses of New York City's housing authority in the Bronx, and with what she says are the effects of her unventilated gas stove, including asthma.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
We recorded our own data and showed that just by taking out a gas stove, we can reduce nitrogen dioxide in someone's home by 35%.
Annie Carforo is with We Act for Environmental Justice, the group that replaced 18 gas stoves in Maria's building with stoves that use a newer technology called induction, because they and an increasing group of scientists, doctors, and chefs say so-called clean-burning natural gas is actually not the most healthy way to cook food inside your home.
What our data has shown is that natural gas is not as clean as we thought. It leaks inside your house, and these leaks are both damaging to the climate and to the health.
Eric LaBelle is a scientist for PSE Healthy Energy, a nonprofit research institute. In a recent peer-reviewed study, he examined just how much methane and other chemicals gas stoves emit into the home. Venting your kitchen is important, he says, but it isn't a perfect solution.
Nearly every stove that we measured emitted methane or natural gas while it was off, and that gas contains benzene. Meanwhile, while you use your stove, nearly every stove emits some amount of nitrogen dioxide, which can be, it's a respiratory irritant and it can be damaging to your health.
LaBelle's study is one of the many that link the pollutants from gas stoves to elevated levels of asthma, particularly in children. Studies the gas industry strongly refutes.
Because it's gas, it seals in juiciness and flavor while it broils.
It turns out America's love affair with so-called natural gas is no accident. It's the result of a concerted effort by the gas industry to sell its product, and it's worked. More than 1/3 of Americans use gas to cook at home.
Say, now you're cooking with gas.
Natural gas. We use gas to cook our food, heat and cool our homes.
There's something very human, very intimate about cooking over an open flame inside your kitchen.
And for many years, gas stoves were inarguably superior to electric when it came to cooking. But these days, many chefs will tell you,
I much prefer this to using a gas stove.
Induction cooking has more than caught up.
How fast does water boil when you're using this technology?
So I just put this on. Water boils twice as fast. We can watch water boil. It's a thing now.
So this is a watch pot that actually is going to boil.
I know. I have been working with induction for so many years, and I always still have a sense of wonder about it.
Rachel Boucher has been a professional chef for over 20 years, cooking for celebrity clients. These days, she's part of the Building Decarbonization Coalition, a group funded by electric utilities, appliance makers, and tech companies that evangelizes for what she calls the magic of induction cooking.
So instead of heating something up, it starts to move the molecules in the pan, and it creates friction, and that makes your pan into your heat source.
Induction doesn't heat up your kitchen, as she showed me with a little crispy skinned salmon that she whipped up. It also doesn't put out the same emissions as gas stoves.
Now, if you notice something, we're standing here. There's a lot of cooking going on. What is not happening? What do we not feel around here?
Any kind of tremendous amount of heat.
Amazing.
Meanwhile, back in the Bronx, Maria Espada was also cooking salmon on her induction stove.
Wow.
Albeit with a little less fanfare. A simple act she hopes to enjoy in her home for the foreseeable future.
Are you planning on cooking on this stove for the next 40 years?
If I'm still here, yes. I did ask, can I take it with me?
Well, they say you can't take it with you, right? But you were going to try?
Time is short, so without further ado, here's David Pogue.
Here are 3 fun facts about daylight saving time. First, Benjamin Franklin did not invent it. He did write a letter to the editor in 1784 complaining about people who sleep past sunrise, and he suggested firing cannons in the street to wake them up. It was a joke, people, a joke. He also suggested taxing people who close their shutters in the morning and putting a limit on how many candles you can buy. A joke. Second fun fact, the actual inventor was a New Zealand entomologist who wanted more daylight for hunting bugs. He suggested a 2-hour shift every season. Count your blessings. And the third fun fact, it's actually daylight saving time. No S. It's just like money-saving coupons or life-saving treatment, daylight-saving time. And yet, oddly, we don't use a hyphen in daylight saving time. Okay, maybe that fact wasn't super fun. Anyway, the idea behind daylight saving time is to shift the time we wake up, go to work, come home, go to bed, so that we have more daylight hours at the end of the day. Kids can go outside and play, grown-ups can shop. Trouble is, shifting our schedules like this is a body clock disaster. Study after study shows links to more heart attacks and strokes, more car crashes, more workplace injuries, more deer strikes, more headaches, more depressive episodes, and lower SAT scores. And maybe worst of all, every time you switch, TV viewership drops. I mean, basically, you're jet lagging yourself twice a year. No wonder most Americans would like to eliminate the clock swapping altogether. So this very year, the Senate passed a bill that would make daylight saving time permanent in a bipartisan vote.
I know this is not the most important issue confronting America, but it's one of those issues where there's a lot of agreement.
So yes, let's make daylight saving time permanent. I can't think of anyone who would object.
Yeah, but you don't have to walk to school in the pitch black, Dad.
Okay, I can think of some people. I mean, honestly, from a health standpoint, the best idea isn't making daylight saving time permanent. It's making standard time permanent. Standard time has the best correlation between the sun's cycle and your body clock. Sunrise makes you wake up, sunset gets you sleepy. Either way, the House has shown no interest in picking up the Senate's bill, So for now, we're going to go right on wrecking our sleep twice a year. So enjoy your extra hour tonight. You'll be paying for it in March.
For some of us, visiting geographic oddities is a bucket list must. But we've found one point of interest right smack in the bullseye of a debate that may never be resolved. Lee Cowan takes us there, or tries to.
The prairie grass of North Dakota can look like it's waving hello, but even the geese just fly right over. North Dakota is not only one of the least visited states, it's also one of the last on a tourist's bucket list. And yet, poor left-out North Dakota may actually be the center of our world.
It's been here, though, since the 30s, right?
Yes, it has, 1931.
This stone monument in Rugby, North Dakota, population about 2,700, marks the area that some say is the geographical center of our North American continent.
It's really fun to say, you know, I'm from North Dakota, and people say, oh, fine. But if you can say, I live at the geographical center of North America, that's pretty cool.
That says something.
It says something.
Kathy Jelsing used to be the director of Rugby's Geographical Center Historical Society. Part of her job was to point wayward tourists to what is now the parking lot of a Mexican restaurant, where they could bask in the magnificent significance that is the middle.
I don't know what the center is supposed to feel like. But
I think it's in your mind.
maybe.
It's in your mind. So if you feel centered
Yeah.
in the center.
Right.
Yeah.
So just how was it determined that this was the continental bullseye?
Well, it happened around 1930. An employee with the U.S. Geological Survey simply took a cutout of the map of the North American continent, and then he tried to balance it on the top of a pin, sort of like this. Not the most sophisticated method, perhaps, but few argued with it for decades.
Rugby embraced the designation. It gave this tiny dot on the prairie a true sense of place.
You have to understand that here in North Dakota, we don't have that much. We don't have Carnegie Hall. We don't have the Statue of Liberty. And so this mattered to Rugby. It's their Grand Canyon. It's their Teton Mountains. It's true. This is it. This is why you live here. You don't live here for the boutique theater or the fine dining. You live here because there is this prairie.
Clay Jenkinson, a humanities scholar and North Dakota native, blissfully never questioned Rugby's title until he learned of Hanson's Bar and its owner, who claimed the center of the continent was actually about 100 miles to the south, in the town of Robinson. Population, about 38.
And I was offended, so I thought, who is this jerk? Why mess with this little town's one pathetic claim to cosmic fame?
Did you ever think that this was going to cause such a stir?
Yeah, I think we did.
Did you?
Bill Bender meant no harm. It was a simple trivia question that he and a few of his buddies called into question.
Lots of trial and error, but...
One night, armed with a globe, some string, and more than a few beers,
We had multiple pieces of string.
they made the case that the continent's center was, perhaps not so coincidentally, right beneath the bar itself.
To me, what we did late at night
With some string
in a
and a couple of
booth of the
beers.
bar, yeah, it seems far more scientific than, a child cutting out a cutout, and balancing it.
He checked to see if Rugby had trademarked their precious phrase, geographical center, and it turned out they had, or thought they had.
They had let it lapse. So I just, that night, typed it in and registered everything and paid the $300 and some it was.
And boom, you owned it.
Yeah, at that point, it was registered to Hanson's Bar.
It wasn't very nice what they did. If we lost the geographical center, what would we be? We would just be another town in the middle of nowhere.
Word of the midpoint meltdown soon got around. A professor in the geography department at the University at Buffalo decided he'd give it a crack.
So it's really just pure curiosity on your part to figure out.
Absolutely.
Professor Peter Rogerson took latitudes and longitudes from all around the edges of North America and plugged those continental coordinates into a special algorithm that he designed to find the center.
You have to take into account that the Earth's surface is curved, and you want to find that balance point in a proper way.
The program ran through all the numbers and kicked out a spot. It was again in North Dakota, but this time, believe it or not, the center was near a town actually named Center. Center, North Dakota. You can't make this up.
When I plotted it on that map, you can imagine my surprise, because I couldn't really believe that had happened. I mean, if it was
the odds, right?
Right.
I guess we probably couldn't have found a more ideal site for it.
It's unique,
center. Yeah.
being up on a hill especially, you know, the view.
Yeah.
As you can see forever.
Dave Berger and Rick Schmidt, both born and raised in Center, which incidentally got its name because it's the center of the county, decided to celebrate its newfound fame, just like every other town had.
I called the coal mine and said, I want a pretty rock. And there's no such thing as a pretty rock in North Dakota. And then the coal mine lady called me 2 weeks later and said, I found your rock.
30,000 pounds of permanence.
We're pretty confident that this is going to be, in the archives, this is going to be the permanent site.
Because otherwise someone's going to have to move a really heavy rock.
We're not going to do that.
As for Hanson's Bar, well, Bill Bender backed down and gave the Geographical Center trademark back to Rugby, although he's still not removing that decal off the floor.
So was it sort of a surrender?
Yeah, it's a surrender. It was definitely a surrender.
Through it all, Rugby never missed a beat. Sales of T-shirts and shot glasses just kept going as if nothing had ever happened.
Caused a lot of stress for people, but it turned out to be a great thing. You're here.
What do you think this controversy says about North Dakota? Does it say anything about the larger?
It says we're a loser state. I mean, how it's in the same zone as the world's largest ball of twine. What we're talking about here.
Right.
This is about something of no consequence, really, that sort of has a level of absurdity right at the center of it. And if it helps North Dakota even in a puny little way, I'm for it.
His advice: chase after the centers while you can. Continents do wander, after all.
Well, that is awesome.
So why not wander here yourself and enjoy what one of the least visited states has to offer?
Emoji, a digital image used to express an idea or emotion. But words fail us, and David Pogue has proof.
Most of our communication online is typed. Emails, text messages, Facebook, Twitter. But typing has no facial expressions, no tone of voice, no nuance. So maybe it was inevitable that somebody would invent emoji. Tiny, typable pictures. Faces, things, animals, flags, and symbols. These days, we type 10 billion emoji a day into our online communications. As I understand it, you are in charge of all the emoji on every Android phone, every Google device. It's you.
I do dabble.
Because by that calculation, that makes you one of the most viewed artists alive.
Too much pressure. Too much pressure. I love our saxophone.
Jennifer Daniel is the creative director of emoji at Google. She and her team have drawn all 3,000 of Google's emoji.
Let's get the eyebrows so it can be a little bit more original here.
Oh, you're actually drawing an emoji.
Yeah, there you go.
This is where it happens, people. Well, technically, she's drawing Google's version of an emoji. Each tech company has its own artistic style. How would you characterize them? What's Google's?
Well, we're cute. I would say cute and simple. Apple tends to be more realistic. Microsoft is flat, very flat. They have this like big black outline around them. Twitter is great. It's really simple, much more simple than Google's actually.
But not as simple as the 176 original symbols that began on Japanese cell phones in 1999. Emoji is a Japanese word, in fact, although it doesn't mean emotion.
It means picture writing, roughly.
Mark Davis is the president of the nonprofit Unicode Consortium, a team of representatives from the big tech companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, and Amazon. He co-founded the group 30 years ago to eliminate a technical Tower of Babel problem, symbols typed on one kind of computer showing up wrong when sent to another one. In 2006, the consortium became the keepers of emoji too, and the sole judges of which new symbols to add each year.
What we decided to do is open up the process so that anybody could file a proposal. So
the public?
Yeah, you.
That's right. Anyone can propose a new symbol. Now, the consortium gets thousands of proposals, and it accepts only about 70 a year. So keep a few rules in mind.
We exclude deities, we exclude logos. Give us some information to justify that it's likely to be reasonably popular.
Are there any good stories of some citizen who had an idea and now that's an actual emoji?
Sure. One of my favorites is the hijab emoji.
I was texting among my friends and we were creating a group chat name for one another with different emojis as how we looked like, and I couldn't find the hijab emoji, so I went around it by adding a turban emoji and, the normal girl emoji with an arrow in between to somehow create a semblance of the hijab.
Rayouf Alumedi was only 15 when she discovered that the existing emoji didn't include the hijab, the head covering worn by 500 million Muslim women around the world.
I spent around 3 to 4 days in my room, curating the perfect proposal for the folks at Unicode Consortium, while my parents thought I was typing away a lab report or something.
The consortium accepted her proposal, and the hijab is now available on every smartphone and computer. Is there such thing as pushback, controversy?
Oh, people hate emoji. Of course they do. I mean, come on. Go on the internet, everyone's angry about something.
There was, for example, the great hamburger scandal of 2017, in which it was discovered that Google had drawn the cheese under the meat. Or the bagel crisis of 2018, when Apple released a rough draft of a bagel, untoasted and without cream cheese.
It was like no one had been to New York before. It was ridiculous.
The companies quickly debugged those emoji as they would any other software glitch. Well, has anyone ever been angry about something that you did?
Probably the gender inclusive work has really ruffled some feathers. This year.
Ah, yes, the gender inclusive work. The original human emoji were all yellow, like Simpsons cartoons. Starting in 2015, the consortium added 5 skin tone options. But even then, as late as 2015, the only worker options represented by women were princess, bride, dancer, or bunny.
And I noticed that it was reinforcing stereotypes. That's when I kicked off an initiative to fix it.
In 2016, the consortium created male and female versions of every human emoji, and more recently, gender-neutral versions. But Mark Davis thinks there's a limit to how representative emojis can get. Is there a grand plan for the future of emoji? I've heard it kicked around that someday we'll be able to make ones that look just like us.
Yes, and that's not going to happen.
For her part, Jennifer Daniel herself created 2 new emoji in 2020, Smile with Tear and People Hugging. There weren't 2 people hugging until 2020?
Not in your keyboard.
People hugging wasn't a slam dunk, however. There already was an emoji known as Hugging Face.
It's creepy emoji. It's like this big old smile with these 2 little jazz hands, and it's like,
oh, that's supposed to be hugging?
Well,
I thought it was jazz hands.
But no one wants to say, like, I'm so sorry for your loss. What is it? That would be terrible.
I had no idea that was even supposed to be hugging.
It isn't anymore.
In this era of social distancing, Mo Rocca says the simple handshake is becoming a distant memory.
Mr. Stokowski! Mr. Stokowski! Just wanted to offer my congratulations, sir.
It's a ritual we take for granted.
This is my dad.
When we say hello.
Oh, how are you?
Good night, Ray. When we say goodbye.
Good night, John.
As a gesture of goodwill.
You can start tomorrow. Oh, well, that's just wonderful.
And as a show of respect.
So I'll see you tomorrow.
And it's something we've all of a sudden had to learn not to do. Is it possible that the handshake is dead?
The handshake is not dead. At least I hope not. It's on hold temporarily until the world is well again. Welcome to the Etiquette.
Patricia Napier Fitzpatrick is founder of the Etiquette School of New York.
I often say I teach knives and forks and handshakes because that's how important handshakes are in greetings.
Mary Jackson, Mr. Glenn. Engineering.
It's a good grip you have, Danaher.
Yes, there is a proper technique.
One simply extends one's right arm toward the other person, gripping web to web, and you shake from the elbow 1, 2 smooth pumps, holding firmly, but not a bone crusher and not a limp noodle.
I once read about little remembered President Benjamin Harrison of the late 19th century. A critic of his said he had a handshake like a wilted petunia.
Oh my. You see, the people remember your handshakes. It's an instrumental part of your first impression.
It's just a very primal sort of a connection, very emotional.
David Givens is an anthropologist with Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington. He says the handshake reaches back 60 million years.
Chimpanzees and gorillas do much the same thing. They long for tactile contact. They basically reach out with the forelimbs, and especially with the palm.
So it's not an accident that we greet each other by shaking hands?
No, because hands have all the neurological circuitry and the emotional parts that we need to make good contact with our fellow humans.
And throughout human history,
a hand clasp that sealed the bargain.
The handshake has been an expression of peace and forgiveness. Alas, it is also, as we've learned, an excellent delivery vehicle for germs.
The casual handshake is pretty much at present dead. The formal handshake for closing a business deal, this I think will remain, but there'll be precautions beforehand. You may even use a thin glove to make the handshake.
Miriam Roddy, the last Thursday of June is what?
National Handshake Day. Used to be, anyway.
Miriam Roddy of Brody Professional Development in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania, is such a fan of handshaking, she created National Handshake Day in 2004.
My personal pet peeve is the macho cowboy, aka I don't want to hurt the little lady, or I just want to kind of give you a little grip here. I demand respect, and I would like a firm grip.
She knows that this June's celebration will have to be virtual.
I feel like if the handshake is gone, that would be very sad for me personally.
But even if we can't touch, David Givens says we'll still use our hands, what he calls our emotional smart parts, to communicate goodwill.
And a good example is the Plains Indian greeting, where you raise your palm out, and shine it at another person from a distance.
The eyes are going to be especially important now, because that's how we're going to communicate warmth and trust.
Perhaps we'll look to Asia for alternatives, or to outer space. And await the day when we can once again join hands with our fellow man and woman. Well, Miriam, it's been great meeting you.
Oh, I got it! Yes!
I feel you.
I let go because it was a little too long, but yes, that was good. That's good.
Catching some Z's is one way of saying you're taking a nap. And while some may dismiss you as just a lazy bones, many experts are waking up to napping's many benefits. Susan Spencer counts the ways.
CEO Brian Halligan admits it. He sleeps on the job.
So describe your naps.
I typically take them in the afternoon after lunch. They're a half hour long.
His naps even find a place on his calendar. It wouldn't be out of the question for your schedule to say 9 o'clock budget meeting, 11 o'clock finance meeting, 12:30 my nap.
Yes, more like 1:30 or 2 my nap.
But it's considered a normal
Yes.
part of your day.
Yes, almost every day.
Almost every day.
Yes.
Whoever said you snooze, you lose never met Halligan. The Boston area tech company that he and a partner founded now has 3,300 employees and is worth $8 billion. People are surprised that the head of an $8 billion company is sleeping his way through the afternoon.
It's only a half hour. It's only a half hour.
But it may just be the most important half hour of his day.
Some of my best ideas I've had are when I'm kind of falling in and falling out of sleep. And it's like that eureka moment.
Describe for me what it is about this process that you think somehow invigorates you, I guess.
I have this impression in my mind of when I fall asleep, there's this little tiny man with a mustache and a broom and like a dustpan, and he goes around and he like cleans up inside my brain. So when I wake up, it's like a clean room, and I'm like very energized, and my mind is open, and I'm ready to receive more information and process it in a much better way.
And you are not at all self-conscious about talking about the man with the broom.
No.
The best window for a nap is actually the mid-afternoon.
So 3 o'clock in the afternoon?
Perfect.
Dr. Charles Seisler heads up the sleep medicine division at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, and he's a big fan of naps. If I'm at work and I take a nap, am I going to be performing better after that nap?
You will, because actually you will consolidate some of the information you learned during the daytime, and you'll be able to remember it better after that nap.
Just ask the folks at NASA. They found that pilots who napped an average of just 26 minutes improved performance by 34%. And other studies link napping to better cognition, sharper memory, less frustration. And if your boss comes along?
You can explain to your boss that this is how you're keeping your performance at its best.
Good luck with that one. But in 2013, Dr. Seisler made that very pitch to the Boston Red Sox, who worried that lack of sleep was hurting their game. His advice? Put a nap room in the clubhouse. Once the nap room was finished, did anybody bother with it? They use it?
Oh yeah, in fact, you couldn't get in because it was so popular with the players.
It hasn't happened! You may recall that later that season, the well-rested Sox won the World Series. This is just amazing. And their sleep doctor got a championship ring. Has your name.
Right, it has my name, which is kind of cool.
What it should have are a bunch of little Z's.
Right.
The Red Sox joined a long list of celebrated nappers, from Leonardo da Vinci to Eleanor Roosevelt to John F. Kennedy.
Winston Churchill, he believed in not holding back. Fueled by a breakfast consisting of brandy, among other things, he would routinely take a nap from 2 to 4. This is during the war. Get under the covers, take off his clothes. This is not just falling asleep on a couch.
And we won the war.
Precisely.
Virginia Tech professor Roger Ekirch is a sleep historian. He says that until the 18th century, most Europeans and North Americans slept in 2 separate chunks.
Generally, people went to bed between 9 and 10 p.m.
Okay, that's kind
They
of normal.
slept for 3.5 hours. They awakened not long after midnight.
And then they do what?
People reflected upon dreams, they meditated, they prayed, there were special prayers.
For how long did they stay awake before they enter the second phase?
Up to an hour or so.
The Industrial Revolution and its emphasis on productivity ended all that.
Our attitude towards sleep changed. Sleep became associated with lethargy.
The stigma stuck. According to a new CBS News poll, 1 in 5 Americans thinks napping is a sign of laziness.
Why do you think naps have such a bad name?
Well, I can quote Ben Franklin. Up, sluggard.
Sluggard?
Up, sluggard, sleep not. There's more than time enough to sleep in the grave.
Ooh, that makes you think. This is not exactly part of American corporate culture, is it?
I don't know.
They don't teach naps at the Harvard Business School.
I don't think they do, no.
No.
But sleep is a topic of study at Emory University in Atlanta.
No one has the actual disease.
Where Professor Dana Johnson is an epidemiologist.
How long is the ideal nap?
So you want to nap 10 to 20 minutes.
That doesn't seem like very long.
She says naps are okay. Just don't snooze your life away.
People that are sleep deprived should definitely have a nap during the day to help them feel restored. But, you know, on the other side of it, a nap could also impact your sleep at night. And so you end up in this cycle of poor sleep at night, then you sleep a little bit during the day.
So naps, in your view, are basically for emergency use only.
It's for, right, that's a good way to put it. It's for when you need it.
So this is like a nap lover's heaven, right? We're surrounded by mattresses.
We met Johnson in a high-end mattress showroom. In a country where naps are shunned, sleep-deprived Americans searching for shut-eye spend almost $30 billion a year on everything from weighted napping blankets to sleep-enhancing pajamas to, well, this.
Slipping on the ostrich pillow envelops your head in a cocoon of comfort.
No ostriches needed for Brian Halligan's naps, however.
So this is the most popular room in the company.
He simply retreats to his company's designated snooze spot, the so-called Van Winkle room, where employees can sign up to catch a few Z's anytime.
A beach umbrella?
Yeah.
And a hammock?
Relaxing.
In fact, the room is so popular, he may even add a second Van Winkle.
So you agree with Yogi Berra. I usually take a 2-hour nap from 1 to 4. Words to live by.
Yeah, I guess so. Yogi's a wise man.
For all the talk about greater gender equality, it's still a man's world. Or so says our Faith Salie.
If you don't know what mansplaining is, or man-interrupting, or man-spread, then you're probably a guy. Here's mansplaining, when a dude explains something in a condescending manner, usually to a woman who might even know more than he does.
You are not an expert on this, my brother, because you are not a woman walking in the street.
Uh-oh.
So you did.
No, but I am more of an expert. I'm more of an expert than you, and I'll tell you why, because I'm a guy, and I know
Absolutely
how we
not.
think. More than you guys will ever know.
Here's man-interrupting, which speaks for itself, or tries to.
There's two. Let me finish. Hey, let me finish. Hey, Kelly. Hey,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Calm down a bit here, Kelly.
And man-spread? That's this. And it's gotten so bad that cities like New York and Madrid have resorted to campaigns that actually ask men to stop behaving as if each of their knees needs its own seat and their genitalia deserve another. Man-spread, mansplaining, man-interrupting, all of it, whether conscious or not, diminishes women's voices, minds, and bodies. Now, let's be clear, not every man who interrupts is a man-interrupter. And women explain, women interrupt, but I'm just gonna woman-numerate a few stats for you. Women on the Supreme Court get interrupted 3 times more than their male colleagues. That's not just.
You know, have a good time, folks.
And in the first 2016 presidential debate, Hillary Clinton interrupted Donald Trump 11 times, and Trump interrupted her 55 times.
Donald, she has a name.
Where did you find
Her
this?
name
Where
is
did you find
Alicia
this?
Machado.
Where did you find
and
it?
she has become
who's counting? Mansplaining may be a newish term, but it's not a new phenomenon. But here's why these recently birthed words are a good thing. Because they name something. And when you name something, you raise consciousness. The conversation is now on the cultural table, and it cannot be interrupted, explained away, or squished to the side. We're seeing this now with pop star Taylor Swift appearing in court to assert unapologetically and unequivocally that she was sexually assaulted. She's come a long way from this.
I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
And if none of this resonates, then I was the wrong messenger. Ask a man to explain what I mean. What I'm about to tell you is not an opinion. It is a public service announcement. It's time to reply all responsibly. Please, for the love of all things holy and efficient, consider hitting reply all for your emails on which someone is CC'd. CC stands for carbon copy. It means all the people in the CC column are getting the same information as the folks in the to line. So even if you're not in charge, you're informed. CC means everyone's fate is now entangled. When you hit reply all, you're including all the folks on the CC train. You're keeping people in the loop so no one spends his life copying and forwarding. No one has to say, Phil moved our meeting to 9:45? Nobody told me. And no one has to say, wait, I thought you were bringing the sleeping bags. Your reply all behavior can say a lot about you. I once accidentally replied all and sent an email complaining about my then boyfriend to a bunch of strangers. It was meant for my friend, who was a bride, but I ended up addressing her entire wedding party. Her marriage lasted, my relationship didn't. I was young and trigger happy. Here's a simple guideline. If 5 names or fewer are CC'd, just go nuts and hit reply all. But if more than 5 folks appear in the CC line, pause, give it a thought. Some people are promiscuous and CC dozens of people who don't need to know each other's business. When your daughter's 2nd grade teacher CCs all the parents in the class about the upcoming field trip, do you need to hit reply all so that 43 adults know your daughter objects to taxidermy and dioramas on ethical grounds? Okay, also, if you're ever BCC'd, do not go near reply all. BCC is blind carbon copy. It means you're a fly on the wall, dude. If you hit reply all, it's beyond bad etiquette to out the person who gave you the superpower of invisibility. It's like screaming, I'm a spy! Look, we all know Al Gore invented email so we could save time and save paper to save trees, and that includes phone trees. Let's get it together and hit reply all responsibly. CC you later.
At the NFL draft these past few years, you may have noticed players and officials trading more than handshakes.
I sort of think the bro hug is for young men today what the handshake has always been for men. It's not something that people read into. When they see it done, they think, okay, here's 2 men who are being friendly with each other, and that's it.
Professors Corey Floyd of the University of Arizona and Mark Moorman of Baylor University have written extensively about male interpersonal communication. They described the bro hug as a handshake-hug hybrid.
It's a little bit more physical, maybe even a little bit more aggressive than, say, a hug with a woman. Right. The physicality of it, the shaking, the patting, the hitting, the chest thumping, all of that.
Yeah, we're guys.
You know, so it looks more physical, it looks more rough.
What are the factors that have contributed to the rise of the bro hug?
I think that as a culture, we're just less homophobic now. Nobody's going to object or think anything other than, you know, a friendly or an affectionate type of gesture.
So it's safer to show non-romantic affection without it being misinterpreted now?
I really think so, yeah.
I always, whenever I see one of my guys in our fraternity, I always just go up and give him a good bro hug. Just to, you know, like when you first see him, like you just go up and give him a hug and just be like, dude, what's up, man?
These members of Baylor University's Phi Kappa Chi fraternity have fully embraced the bro hug. All right, Kyle, can you break down the bro hug for me?
Yeah, so I think when I think of the bro hug, it kind of starts out as a handshake. You go in, but then it kind of just morphs into kind of like an embrace like this. Or you start with a handshake, but then like throw out the arm and go in there for the essential bro hug.
Mark, how essential is the back clap?
It kind of signifies this is what we're doing, and then, you know, now it's
like
over.
Punctuation to the sentence.
But sometimes what should end with an exclamation point peters out in an unsettling question mark. The most awkward bro hug in history may have been in 2014 between then-President Barack Obama and his outgoing press secretary, Jay Carney. Okay, so what happened there?
That's about as bad as it gets. That's when one person goes for the bear hug and one goes for the bro hug.
Total miscommunication.
'Cause what happens there is you get one of your hands trapped in between two-armed embrace, and so you're hugging like this, and the other guy's got both arms around you, and you don't know what to do.
A man's comfort level with physical affection, says Floyd, is rooted in family.
We have found that when men are very affectionate with their sons grow up to be comfortable with that.
It's like this, boom, boom, like that.
None of this comes as a surprise to photographer Lamont Hamilton and choreographer Andre Zachary. They're old hands at what's called dapping.
I dapped with my uncles, I even dapped with my grandfather. Like, for instance, if I got reprimanded for something by my pops, that would be his way of saying, you know, I had to, but everything's all good. There's still love here, because above all, the DAP is love.
Giving DAP, an acronym for dignity and pride, is something that African American men have been doing for a long time.
However many black men there are in America, that's how many variations there are on the DAP.
Take a look at this North Carolina elementary school teacher dapping with his students.
We would create DAPs in elementary school, you know, like your secret handshake with, you know, your group of friends.
Hamilton and Zachary's touring multimedia stage show celebrates the DAP and its surprising history.
The DAP as we know it started with black soldiers during the Vietnam War. Black men were swept out of Watts, out of Chicago, out of Harlem, and sent over to Vietnam. So this was a way for black soldiers to show solidarity and say, we're together, this is our code. The hug gesture of the DAP had a very specific meaning, and that was, I'm looking, I got your back and you have mine.
The title of the show, 5 on the Black Hand Side.
The title is from a saying within the black community. It's like, give me 5 on the black hand side. Right. Most darker skinned black people have two-toned hands. So that was a way to say, no, don't give me 5 on the white hand side, give me 5 on the black hand side. Okay. That's a way to connect skin. I think one thing that's been brutally misunderstood is the compassion that black men have for each other. And we always say we love each other. We have boundless affection for one another and compassion for one another.
And that ease in expressing affection is now being shown by men everywhere.
Whether people want to admit it or not, people are tantalized by a lot of things black culture. And when they see people dapping, especially when it started really getting into mainstream cultures through like sports and stuff like that, it became something that everybody kind of started picking up on.
It used to be a simple exchange. With cash, here's your change and here's your receipt. With a credit card, sign here and here's your receipt. And the occasional, would you like your receipt in the bag? And that was it. Exchange over. You went on with your life. But these days, receipts are looking more and more like the Dead Sea Scrolls. You make your purchase, and the register spits out this thing that keeps coming and coming and coming. When it finally wheezes to a stop, that receipt is long enough to comb. I mean, if you're like me, there are dozens of them, folded like accordions, jammed into your wallet. I want to throw them out, but these slips of paper are so much more than a receipt. At the top, they appear normal. Date, store location, phone number, maybe a store logo, and then your typical items, prices, and totals. That used to be it. Now, notice how it keeps going. There are barcodes, website addresses, smartphone codes, those are those weird-looking squares that I still don't understand, coupons, contests, and offers of instant gratification. Keep your receipt from your morning coffee, bring it back in the afternoon for more for just $1. And speaking of bucks, some stores actually give you bucks to spend, depending on how much money you've already spent. Not real money, but fake bucks that have to be redeemed in a timely manner. But guess what? You have to bring back the original receipt. Original? Do these stores think we're making copies? Now scroll down that receipt some more. Help us serve you better, it says. Tell us about your recent experience. The receipt gives you a chance to praise, whine, or give instant feedback about anything from a poor choice in atmospheric music to an extra nice barista. Your opinion counts, it says, and maybe it does. But then there's a dark side to receipts, the so-called point system that despite all the crumpled scraps of paper you save, never seem to add up to much. Are those points really worth your time, your effort, the space in your wallet? Who can say? I know for me, it's time to get off this receipt merry-go-round once and for all and let them all go. But I'll always wonder about the receipt that got away.
We're told this painting, called Buff, by an artist who's known simply as Lee, would sell for tens of thousands of dollars. Quite a step up from his graffiti roots when he was writing on the wall for free. Rita Braver now joins the issue over whether graffiti is art.
It is, in fact, a national urban epidemic. It spreads like some mysterious magic marker pen spray paint fungus.
Remember when graffiti was the scourge of American cities?
And now it seems that almost every inch of every public wall is covered with names in an obscure kind of print.
But what was once considered vandalism is being presented in an exhibit at the Museum of the City of New York, showcasing some who, as teenagers, left their mark in the 1970s and 80s.
I'm going to be 59 this year, and so looking back, wow, it just doesn't seem real.
Leonard McGurr goes by the street name Futura 2000. Chris Ellis is also known as Days, and Lady Pink's real name is Sandra Fabara. They say that early graffiti was all about tagging, figuring out a stylish and distinctive way to write your street name.
Spray paint was the perfect medium for what we were doing because it was vibrant colors, it was quick, it dried fast, and enabled you to paint on a large scale.
Over the years, graffiti writers began to embellish their works with more design elements, many borrowed from popular culture. All along, part of the attraction for these kids, including Lady Pink, was that they were outlaws, with spray paint, often stolen, as their weapon of choice.
Learning how to paint in pitch blackness with your knees banging together, your heart in your throat, you hear a noise, and it might be only a rat, but you jump out of your sneakers and you run down the length of the lane, and then you have to come back and continue painting in the dark. You develop night vision. This is not an easy feat.
But what many of us never realized is how hard these teenagers worked on their creations.
They actually planned out what they were gonna put on buildings and trains and buses.
Yeah, it was very common to kind of work on your style and then translate it into work in the world.
Sean Corcoran, who curated the exhibit, showed us a rare group of little black books, essentially sketchbooks. There are also photos and reproductions, all collected by the late Martin Wong, a painter in his own right who became friend and mentor to many of the young graffiti writers.
Why do you think that he realized that this was stuff worth holding on to?
He believed there was a real creative value to what these kids were doing, and he really bought into who they were.
He saw them as artists, not hoodlums?
Yes, exactly. He really very strongly believed that.
But others object to glorifying graffiti, arguing that it's a sign of a city out of control.
It is filthy. It is spirit killing.
Heather McDonald, who writes about urban policy for the Manhattan Institute, says she is angry about the exhibit.
It does not focus sufficiently on the corrosive effect that graffiti had on the city's spirit. Anybody who could avoid the subways in the 1970s and 80s that could, did.
The exhibit presents graffiti in the context of art. You're suggesting that this isn't art.
It is vandalism. It is an appropriation of the public's space or somebody's private property without permission, and nobody has a right to do that.
It's only graffiti or vandalism if you get arrested. But if you get away with it, then it's clearly art.
In fact, graffiti began to disappear from streets and subways as New York City became more vigilant about cracking down and cleaning up. But it has left a lasting impression on our culture. Futura 2000 has become a graphic artist who has worked for Nike and Levi's. Lady Pink is a painter whose work has been exhibited in several museums. And so is Days. And the graffiti movement paved the way for world-renowned artists like Keith Haring, Banksy, and Shepard Fairey, who created the famous Obama Hope poster. It all delights this trio of graffiti pioneers.
I think we're all pretty grateful right now to have had that experience, you know, because a lot of people pine for it. You know, they oh wow, it must have been so cool back then in New York, and you know what? Yeah, it was, and you missed it, okay?
The museum says this has been one of the most popular exhibits in years. And whether you like the work or what it stands for, there's no getting away from the fact that all of this was created by the very young.
The trains you see is done by a 14-year-old, 15, 16-year-old. It is done by kids. When was the last time we've ever seen an important movement be contributed by teenagers in our American culture?